We live in a symbiotic relationship, and actually we don't feed ourselves, we feed the bacteria which convert our food into either the building blocks, energy units that we live on. If we're feeding it the wrong food, we start producing a variety of toxins that cause us to have that brain fog. We wake up in the morning, we feel that foggy feeling, or we get the crust coming out of our eyes, or we have chronic bad breath, or that we feel lethargic in the evening and don't have energy. These are good indications that you're in an over-toxic state.
We not only have a gut biome,
Yes.
we have a biome in our mouth
Yes.
for prebiotics. We also have it in our brain.
Yes.
These all work together.
Yes.
There's nothing. If somebody says I have a leaky gut, I can guarantee them they have a leaky brain. We need to look at our whole body.
Welcome to the Brain Fitness Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Patrick Porter. Please join us on our mission to better a billion brains. Enjoy the episode and remember to share it with your family and friends.
Hey, Brain Tap Nation, I'm here at the Biohacking Summit here with Dave Asprey 2023, and I have one of my good friends. We've been hanging out together at these conferences for quite a while. I've taken advantage of his supplementation. It's awesome. BiOptimzers. It's Wade Lightheart. So Wade, you've done this journey on your own. You were a bodybuilder, but I'm not going to steal all your information. But I mean, you're somebody that's been out there proving it through you. That's what I love about biohacking is you don't just take somebody else's word for it. You do it. You measure it. You figure out what's happening, and now you're training the world, and you're doing it through not only proper nutrition, but like today or the other day when I got my package, there was a book you put in there.
Yep.
Everybody got this big, I'm thinking that wasn't cheap, but you gave everybody one of your books. So tell us a little bit about your mission to educate the world, and then tell us a little bit more about BiOptimzers.
Well, thank you so much. I think like all of us, we have a passion. I fell in love with the sport of bodybuilding when I was a kid, and it was a way kind of to develop my own physicality. And went into personal training and then fell in love with not only just transforming myself, but being able to help others feel healthier, more fit. And that was really fun.
Yep.
And then after competing at the Mr. Universe contest in 2003, I developed a whole series of gut problems. And I always say, going up to that last 6 months, I felt like my brain wasn't working right. I was in a lot of pain, consistently, and it was just something that was accepted. Well, if you want to play at this level, is going to happen. After that, I gained 42 pounds of fat and water in 11 weeks. So I went from Mr. Universe to Mr. Marshmallow, and and fortunately I met a doctor, and he started teaching me about the role of how what goes into your gut is it's what you digest, absorb, and utilize. And so I started learning about the relationship between your gut health and your body health. Because I just assumed you eat the protein, you eat the carbs, you eat whatever diet you're following, and then it just all goes in, but there's a whole process.
Right.
And so I was able to recover from that over the course of the next 6 months. And I became so passionate about it that I started sharing this with the world. Matt and I, my business partner, started a company, BiOptimzers, and then we started working on that. And what's really interesting about the correlation with the gut and the brain, so there is a unique connection between those aspects with the neurochemical formation that you need to allow your brain to function. And then they're interrelated. And how your brain operates can affect your gut. For example, if someone is really scared or has a phobia, it'll have constrictions and inabilities to absorb key nutrients inside of your diet. And so we've been advocating a variety of modalities from our company and partnering with a variety of people at the event and so on and so forth in the industry to help provide an alternative model of health and vitality than is currently present. What we have is sick care, and then there is healthcare, which is really about how do you embrace vitality and health. And that involves a sequence of things to offset the downside of civilization. So there's an upside of civilization: convenience, communication, efficiency, economic viability. We're living in one way the greatest times, but we have all these other things that are distracting. Social media, EMF waves, a constant bombardment, which are overloading our nervous system. So what we help to advocate is the systematic practices that people can integrate on a day-to-day basis, one thing at a time, and so that they can experience the full capacity of the human organism. And it's been a great time with BrainTap because BrainTap is part of our process. And I got introduced to BrainTap by my significant other who was using this, and she had said, hey, you got to try this BrainTap. And I had been familiar with various neurofeedback devices. I'm big on cognitive things and training.
She actually recorded some sessions for us in Portuguese. We need more.
Exactly. And so she said, here's this really interesting process. where I put on this headset, put some these lights, and you sit there and you do this thing, and all of a sudden I was like, oh, I feel better. What happened? Like, you know, what's going on here? And she began to share with me, and we began integrating as part of our cognitive health routine in addition to things that we do.
That's great. Well, a lot of brain tappers, they get in because they think all you have to do is fix the brain. We're telling them, number one, you got to fix your diet.
Yes.
Because you cannot think a bad diet. You got to get up and move and breathe, and that includes, you know, some kind of resistance training and all of these other things we do. Then you can work on brain fitness. Now you can do it the other way too, but the thing is that all three of those components have to be present. You know, we might get them psychologically feeling a little bit better, but if they can get their physiology involved at the same time, there's this powerful synergy that happens. Most people know in our industry, but BrainTap touches, we have so many people that are going, this is where they start because there's this mental health tsunami going on out there.
Yes.
So what do you think would be what's the lowest hanging fruit, if you will, that for someone to start optimizing? Like when you're talking about biooptimizing,
that's right.
We're talking about their biology being optimized. What do you think that first step is?
The first, I'll say there's 3 non-negotiables in a person's life. A good breathing practice, and we know about the correlation. Part of what BrainTap is like you're able to get into a conscious breathing practice. Good hydration. Your brain is mostly water. Your body's mostly water. And so being hydrated, most people are chronically dehydrated. And daily exercise, people go, what's the best exercise? The one you'll do every day. Okay? Start there. And that can be as much as walking or rebounding or cycling or lifting weights or whatever that is, but find that balance. Those 3 are non-negotiables. And after that, I would suggest people get a genetic test and see which diets are more suitable for their physiology and their genetics. There's all these diet philosophies and strategies and advocacy, and the individual often will try to put themselves in one, and you know it works for their friend,
right?
But it doesn't work for them. But they don't know their unique genetic potential, what's suboptimal and what's optimal. And so my business partner is a keto guy, and I'm a plant-based guy. We're like far on the spectrum,
right.
And then optimizing the right dietary choices within that fits your genetics. And you know, that's one of the things that we advocate. Then looking at the microbiome, there's 3 things that optimize your digestion, and this gets worse over age. Your enzymatic capacity, hydrochloric acid. So people are getting treated for acid reflux, and oftentimes it's not enough acid, so a little bit of hydrochloric acid, and then good probiotics. That's the little bacteria that work symbiotically. And what's interesting with correlation in brain, a lot of your neurotransmitters are made from the digestion of proteins, which go through an enzymatic, hydrochloric acid, and probiotic levels. And that converts them into the neurotransmitters, the amino acids that make the neurotransmitters that make you feel good, that make you be able to focus, that make you feel happy. And if you don't have a great gut, it's really hard to develop those things. And if you have that, all of your work on a BrainTap factor is going to work better in just your day-to-day life. You'll be less moody, you won't be tired, you won't have the crusty stuff. And that takes, you know, about 90 days to really optimize. And then from there, it becomes this kind of like self-fulfilling process. You feel better, you get attracted to more things, you start picking up that. And so we identify that in the book that we give, From Sick to Superhuman. You can get on our website or whatever. And that book is designed to share, here's all those things that you can do. What are the step-by-step sequence that I can go to start rediscovering all what's possible with all the tech that's available today? Because your doctor's not going to tell you about it. Your ND might, a really great nutritionist that's cutting edge might, but unless you have those people in your life, you're not going to know about all the breakthroughs.
Right. I think you brought up the 3 key, I would call those nutritional non-negotiables, no matter what your genetic profile tells you, because we're not digesting our foods.
That's right.
And like you said, we're not always what we eat, it's what we digest, metabolize, and use. You know, we are what we don't eliminate, I guess is one of the ways to say it. And then myself, when I turned 55, I started to have, at our table, you'd get enzymes, hydrochloric acid, and of course I'm taking the probiotics all day long too. I'm not a nutritionalist, but I'm just kind of sharing what we tell people. Instead of taking the little blue purple pill and all that.
That's right.
Maybe you could tell us why that pill works, but it's not really healthy for the body, because I try to tell people you're actually blocking what you need.
That's right.
So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, hydrochloric acid, so acid reflux and heartburn are 2 symptoms of the same thing. And that is your food, instead of breaking down, is fermenting in the upper cardiac portion of the stomach. And this fermentates a gas, and that gas puts what's called the esophageal sphincter, which is at the top. So your food goes down your throat into this sphincter. And as it ferments, if you don't produce enough hydrochloric acid, that fermentation creates a gas and lifts that sphincter lid. Some of the acid from your stomach that gets produced during digestion will now leak into the esophagus, and you get this heartburn, burping, acid reflux. It can wake you up at night, especially. And it's not, and you start developing bacteria overgrowth called H. pylori. And there's two things that hydrochloric acid does. Number one, it disinfects your food, okay, from pathogens, parasites, bacteria,
I don't
bugs.
leave the country without it, that's
right.
for sure.
and as we get older, we make less and less of this. And people go, so what happens? You go to your doctor, say, I'm getting acid reflux, I'm getting heartburn, I don't feel good with my food. What people don't recognize, it's because you're not producing enough acid, and the doctor gives you an antacid. So you don't feel the pain, but now you've completely disrupted your digestive area. The H. pylori starts growing, and they start producing all these neurochemicals and toxins that start detoxifying your brain. I don't feel good. I feel kind of depressed. I don't feel good. And then inside of the gut, you start getting gas and bloating, and maybe have like incontinence, right? And so it's like, oh, I don't feel good, or that food sits in my stomach. If you're having any of those symptoms, it means that some aspect of your digestive process has actually been impaired. Yeah. And there's a really unique symbiotic relationship between your gut and your brain. In fact, there's a gut-brain axis. And the bacteria tie into our nervous systems and create this interdependent relationship. So if you have an overgrowth of bacteria, one of the things you're going to notice is a high amount of food cravings for sugar. Why is that? You're not able to produce enough serotonin, which makes you feel good. And serotonin, 95% of that neurotransmitter is in the gut. So when you do that, you start to get this cycle of positivity. And there's a lot of probiotics, there's a lot of things, but the easy way to check to see if you have and don't have enough hydrochloric acid, you take a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda and you mix it in 4 ounces of water, stir it up and drink it on an empty stomach. If you burp within 5 minutes, you have enough hydrochloric acid. If you don't have enough, and a single hydrochloric acid tablet right after your meals or during your meals will alleviate that one aspect. And of course, you can look at enzymes and probiotics on top of it.
I definitely do it every time I have meat.
Yes.
Because I was vegetarian for 18 years.
Right.
And so I don't know if that had any effect, but I noticed when I went back to eating meat, because my wife needed it, she wasn't getting enough. I could do all right. I'm a B- blood type, so I was fine. She's O, and apparently they're supposed to eat meat. So,
yes.
And she wasn't getting the iron she needed. So I would recommend that. Now, one thing we do with probiotics, you kind of mentioned it already, so you kind of read my mind, or that's just part of your program. When people have sugar cravings, which they don't understand, that's the worst thing for our body, right? I mean, that's the most toxic food.
Yes.
And people are eating so much of it, and the brain can either be a fat burner or uses fat for energy, is what we want, or it uses sugar, which is destroying the brain. So there's so many people, and a good friend of mine wrote the book, Get Off Your Sugar, and he started talking about probiotics, and people can go almost like they overdo the probiotics because that bacteria, right, in the gut, it starts to re-educate, because we're not all human, right?
That's right.
We're other bugs in there. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, first and foremost, there's 10 times the amount of bacteria inside of your body as there is cells in the body. And we live in a symbiotic relationship. And actually, we don't feed ourselves. We feed the bacteria, which convert our food into either the building blocks, energy units that we live on. If we're feeding it the wrong food, we start producing a variety of toxins. And these are registered as indole, skadole stuff, and have neurocognitive effects that cause us to have that brain fog. We wake up in the morning, we feel that foggy feeling, or we get the crust coming out of our eyes, or we have chronic bad breath, or that we feel lethargic in the evening or don't have energy. These are good indications that you're in an over-toxic state. And I always say with bacteria, you have 10% good, 10% bad, 80% opportunists. This microbiome, as it's called, this array of bacteria, is very dynamic. And as you start to switch your diet to the good or to the worse, it has a deep impact on these relationships. That's why some people get sick when they go to another culture, might get exposed to different bacteria or different foods. Or, during the holiday season, people go through Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's, and everybody's sick in January. Why are they sick? Because they've actually fed all the bad guys, starved out the good guys, and now everybody's like, oh, I gotta get on my diet, and they start your diet. And the first week you're like, I'm craving sugar and I don't know why. Well, that's because the bad bacteria have now taken over your nervous system, and they're demanding that they need sugar because they live well on it. So as you become more and more aware of this, put in the right dietary aspects for your lifestyle and your outcome and your goals and your genetics, well, then what happens, you start to shift those bacteria, and you can augment that process by adding key elements. Like we have a product that's cognitive bacteria that improve cognitive performance. There's another one that helps improve immune system response. Different bacteria do different things. So there's not one size fits all in bacteria. You need to kind of weigh that, get with a professional to help you select those things. And we have a lot of stuff on the website about it.
A lot of people don't realize that we not only have a gut biome,
yes,
we have a biome in our mouth.
Yes.
For prebiotics, we also have it in our brain.
Yes.
So a lot of times, they say health starts in the mouth. If you're going to a natural dentist, something like that.
Right.
So it's these all work together.
Yes.
There's nothing. If somebody says I have a leaky gut, I can guarantee them they have a leaky brain.
That's right.
And so when you're feeding the gut and you're doing these things like the cognitive one you're talking about, which is awesome, it's one of those things we need to look at our whole body, right?
Correct.
It's not just one thing. Some people go in and say, all you need is to increase your fiber to lose weight.
Right.
So tell me about the life of when you're working with people. I know you coach a lot of people and train them. So I know everybody has to find the diet works best for them. But what have you seen in your experiences? Because there's a lot of things out there about like intermittent fast. I intermittent fast. It helped me. You came up to me and said, "Hey, it looks like you lost a little weight."
Yeah, you've been doing really good.
I've lost 40
it's incredible.
pounds.
It's really powerful.
So what I found was, when you're doing trade shows, it's easy to not eat during the trade show, but then you go home and you knock the cupboards off.
That's
and
right.
You can just start eating.
That's
but
right.
if you do if you can do things during the day, little things. So do you have any tricks for people that have these busy lives to keep their nutrition in check? Because some people, they'll either overeat in the morning or they'll have fear eating because they feel they might not eat, or maybe they wait to the end of the day and they eat. Tell us about that.
Well, it's very interesting. If you do a genetic test, you'll see if you're a morning person or an afternoon person. So particularly for women as they age, oftentimes because of hormone dysregulation, they're going to do well with a really big breakfast early in the morning to alleviate the starvation cycle, where men oftentimes, because of their testosterone cycle, will do better fasting. So if you're going to do intermittent fasting, most women will do better if they eat early and fast later, and men will do better if they fast early and eat later. The other methodology, if you're on the more athletic side, is regular servings, particularly of protein inside of the body, so that you're able to provide enough amino acids, and that also increases satiety. So satiety is a big aspect of dietary adherence. So there's several different camps. Mm-hmm. If you're more of a fat metabolizer, you're going to do protein and fats, very little carbohydrates, probably not that much fiber. Mm-hmm. If you're more on the plant-based or carbohydrate metabolizing side, you're going to do a little bit of protein, high fiber and moderate carbohydrates, mm-hmm. and probably relatively low in fats.
Right.
And so those are the two major camp differences. And of course, as we get older, generally the less we eat, the better off we are, because we're giving more time to regenerate that tissue inside the body, to stop that leaky gut, and of course, eliminate the inflammatory foods that disrupt everything.
Right. You've mentioned at least 3 times DNA testing.
Yes.
So I've had a lot of different DNA testings, but for someone who's never done that before, where do you recommend they go to get this test that can tell them these things you're talking about?
Yeah, I've gone to a lot of them. I really like the DNA company with Kashif. Mm-hmm. They also have naturopathic doctors if you want to go all in, and they will actually explain your suboptimal genetics, allow you to select what nutrition, what type of diets are going to be much more easy to succeed. And of course, we've got a new book coming out this year called The Ultimate Nutrition Bible. They're pairing up both the DNA test as well as an app, a recipe program, and an entire course to allow people to learn the nuances in the comfort of their home on their phone. So
that's great. And those of you that were following BrainTap, we do a lot with the DNA company, but I didn't want to say that if that wasn't the one you were recommending.
No, I'm with those guys. I love those guys. I think they're doing a great job.
And they can even see a video where he went over mine.
Yes.
which was very interesting, and that helped me too. So
It's fascinating,
he
right?
went over and he basically like gave me kind of like a psychic reading or something. And, you know, the DNA just kind of revealed what was going inside of me. It's on the web. It's on one of our podcasts where you can see. Just put in DNA company Brain Tap. They'll read you mine. You know, we basically brought up on the screen, and he kind of told the story, and because you know nobody's perfect, right? So at the time, I was looking for solutions. So it was a really great. It's a really great program, and I think there's so much science out there, right? And your company never stops. I mean, you're always digging deep into the science, finding out what works. So tell us a little bit about what's up and coming besides this new book that I think that'd be great. I'd love to interview you once that's out.
Thank you.
Get it out to the world. But what do you see as the big moves for BiOptimzers in the next year to come, or 2 or 3?
Yeah, well, we're entering into the next 10 to 20 years, we're going to enter into the post-antibiotic era. And this is a very scary time because antibiotics have allowed people to survive surgeries and infections and made a massive difference in the world. Unfortunately, the overprescription of them have now created all of these bacterial-resistant strains which are running rampant in hospitals and have a variety of issues. So with our research facility in Bosnia, we have over 20 PhDs and master students who are doing round-the-clock experiments to help cultivate the next generation of super probiotics to deal with the complications that are coming down the pipe in the future. Our team is very passionate about it. A lot of the profits that we make for our company are going back into funding, supporting these people to do really cutting-edge research so that we can provide the solutions for the coming age for our kids and the next generations to come. Science is always a moving target.
Right.
The science is never settled. It is continually creating new models that we can apply to meet the challenges of today. I do believe that we are going to be able to extend the higher quality of life by approximately 20% over the next 20 years. So, you know, life expectancy was around 80. I think we could get to mid-90s for sure, living strong and living a vital life. And that's our goal, to help people live strong and live long.
That's great. And I know also you live in Venice Beach, which is a beautiful place, the ocean there, and you have in your home is almost like a biohacking lab.
Yes, it is.
You walk in and you bring people in there all the time. And you share. You have health parties. You know, and showing people that they can celebrate health instead of destroying their bodies. By getting together. So I think that's just a unique thing that people do. People usually think of Venice Beach as crazy people, that
it is a crazy place. I fit right in.
When I went there, I felt like I should get an apartment. So that's kind of my people too. And every time we went to California, we thought that, and it's changed a lot since I started going there in the 70s, but it's still a cool place to go and a lot going on there. So when you're doing these things, community is important, right?
Yes.
So tell me, when you think about your community, not just BiOptimzers, because you're very supportive of other things. I mean,
100%.
You're one of those collaborators that say, hey, if this works, let's bring it in and do it. What would you say to somebody out there that thinks there's only a finite number of clients or people that are going on? Because in this, we have to work together to change this planet. It can't be done with. It can't just be Brain Tap. It can't just be BiOptimzers. Right. It can't just be PMF. It can't.
That's right.
What do you say about this integrative kind of approach that people are using?
Well, everything in life comes down to your intention, and intention is expansive, not restrictive. And so, if you have good intentions, goods follow you, and you start to connecting with other people who are helping move forward a new paradigm for humanity. All evolution on the planet has been about people collaborating towards a collective positive outcome goal. And all negative offenses is people operating out of a position of restriction, or that I got to protect something for mine. And what I would suggest is to anybody that wants to get into this field, be kind, be loving, have the right intentions, share and give and give. And as you give, what happens, it's the only thing when you give love, more of it comes back to you in this life, and then you start meeting great people. It's like you go on a little hero's journey, and like there's a breadcrumb of information. Your greatest challenge is often your greatest opportunity, and it's a doorway to find a pathway to friends, community. Humans are extremely social creatures. We found out over the last couple of years in the restrictive nature of how detrimental it is to mental health and to physical health. And if we've learned anything over the last couple of years is how much surrounding yourself with a good community of positive people who share your same values about health in a way that doesn't condemn what other people are doing. Not everybody has to be like me. I don't expect everybody to do everything I don't expect everybody to do the diet I do or the things I do. But what I do hope is that there might be some little thing that I can offer them, because there's a high likelihood there's something they can offer me.
That's awesome. So how can people learn more about you and BiOptimzers?
Yeah, they can just stop in our site, BiOptimzers.com. We're on Instagram, social media, and all that stuff. We have a free course. It's called the Awesome Health Course. It's an 84-day course where I take people through a systematic way to encourage a lifestyle that you can add technology on top of. Most of the things I advocate for are free. It doesn't cost anything, but it helps you sort out this confusing world for anyone who's getting started. We have a variety of courses and offerings. Of course, we do have some digestive health products, nervous system, brain optimization stuff. And we always are sharing with other people on our Awesome Health podcast, people like Brain Tap, who are making a difference in the health and happiness of the world. It's a great thing to be part of. It's something you want to think about and do. If you're watching this, obviously you're interested. I would say step up, take the next step on your next thing, and keep spreading the light and the love, and you're amazing what a magic will happen. So I want to thank you for that.
Well, thank you. That's a great way to end this podcast. Everyone knows that I'm on a mission to better a billion brains. You're part of that mission because of what you're doing. It needs to be, we need to work together, because nobody's going to do this alone, and we're not getting out of here alive. So we all need to work together to build up our resilience, be happy, love one another. Like you said, I think that's so important. And let's keep learning, growing, and developing as a community. Let's change the world one brain at a time. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on our mission to better a billion brains. Follow at Dr. Patrick Porter on social media for updates, and remember to practice brain fitness every day.